Hey, good morning, everyone. It's 7 a.m. Welcome. Hey, hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. John and Risotto here. Welcome to 7 a.m. And it is 7 a.m. Today is March 15th, 2021. Had a really great evening, actually. I went over to LNI Studios here in Bayonne, New Jersey. Igor Martinez, the owner, and I, about oh gosh, months ago, at least 4 or 5 months ago, we're talking about live streaming, and he was a guest on my show last year, and uh, he liked what I was doing and stuff, so I was giving him. I sat with him for about an hour once, and I just kind of gave him a consulting session on live streaming and what he could be doing and things to look, and he had some ideas, and he put them together. He took his studio, and he took the main room, and he basically transformed it into a wonderful space, um, almost like a stage, not almost like a stage, and put the lights in and put a bunch of cameras in, got some software, taught himself how to use it, um, and he triggers now cameras, and he does these live streaming events, and he asked me to host them. So I said yes, I'd love to do that. A way to get bands back in front of people, even in a safer way, to kind of slowly roll out, um, the idea of going back and seeing live bands and getting the bands to be comfortable playing live again, even though it's not really in front of a live audience. There are people watching, and you get to have an audience appreciate you. And so he started doing these events, and they've gone really well. We did three of them so far. Last night was really epic. Great event. The bands sounded fantastic. Two bands, one called Raise the Kicks, and the other one called I Defy. And they were a ska band, and they both were just really fantastic, and a really bunch of great guys too. It was a pleasure talking to them. They were all very nice, and answered some great questions, and we talked a lot about post pandemic performances and bands and things like that. And it was really a great night. So thank you to Igor Martinez at LNI Studios. It's on 47 John F. Kennedy Boulevard. If anybody is interested in, in a recording studio, or even a rehearsal space, he has great rates. He's a great guy, really easy to get along with, and really talented. Really talented. He mixed these things like, he's mixing the sound, and he's actually triggering the cameras while the live stream is going on. He's doing it all in studio. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll be able to see some of the behind the scenes footage and stuff like that. So that was actually really cool. That happened last night. So to this morning, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, and it started with a conversation I was having with someone. This was about a week ago, actually. I usually write down um, conversations I had that kind of triggered some idea in my head, maybe for a future show or for some type of content. So I'll write it in my book. And this one came up, and I thought, oh, this would be a good time to talk about this. And it was about recovering from a failure. Not necessarily, because you hear a lot of conversations about failure, right? Keep moving forward, get up again, and but sometimes you'll have a failure that really knocks the wind out of you, right? And I've had these. Um, I've had these all the time. How are you? Thank you very much for tuning in. I really needed this right now. Oh, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. This is Hydragmer. I'm pronouncing it wrong, but thank you for being on. I appreciate that. And good morning to you. Good morning. So, so yes. So the subject today is about recovering from failure, and one of the major failures that I've had a lot of failures. Obviously, I mean everyone does. But getting up the next day and then trying to do something else is like, oh Jesus, why am I even trying this again? So freaking annoying. But there are a couple of options that you have. You know, one of them is don't do it. Right? That's everyone's option. Everyone's has the ability to say, you know what, I'm just not doing this anymore, and I'm gonna go take a nap, or I'm gonna go watch TV, play video games, whatever you do. Um, and that is an option that we all have. Now, it's an option that, as an artist, um, you really don't have that option because an artist is only alive when they're creating. And if you're not creating, you're slowly dying, even though it may not feel that way. You may feel like you're fine, but trust me, it is a slow, painful death when an artist is not creating and it's just kind of holding that. I'm sorry to hear that. Hi Drag, that's very sad. I'm sorry about that. um and that's definitely something to try to overcome. That's really difficult. This morning we're I will be talking about that in the future for sure. This morning we're talking about failure in business, failure in entertainment, failure even in relationships. Um, the choice of recovery is really an individual. It's a personal choice, right? It's an individual's option whether they want to sit down and say, you know what, I need to really handle this in my life because this is really not going to be um, it's not going to be a good future for those around me, for myself, and making that decision to sit down and figure it out. Figuring it out. One of the in art in the arts is always a wonderful thing because every morning when you wake up, it's another opportunity for you to create something that's never been created before, right? Even though somebody feels like, oh, this is oh gosh, this is something that I really want to just get away from, something that I really, it feels that way, and you wake up in the morning and you might have had a really bad failure, and you might think to yourself, you know what, I really don't know if I can confront this right now. um and of course we're talking about business, somebody, um but yes, I don't mean to to make that any to not put any value to what you're saying there. I apologize for that. Um, but I will definitely be talking about that. And you're right; it is actually much bigger than a business failure for sure. I had a family loss also last year with the same thing. When you really decide that you're an artist, or you realize that you're an artist, and you haven't been invalidated by anybody around you, because that happens a lot too, right? People around you will try to make you feel bad. They'll try to make you maybe not even feel that what you're doing is important, or they'll bring up money, if they're trapped into that middle class mentality. When you're trapped in a middle class mentality, what you do is you're part of the group that feels that, I went to school, I got a degree, I got married at 23, I bought a house, I sold the house, I moved to a nicer place where there was a job, I moved to a job. Man, people do that, they move to the job instead of just finding a job where you are or where you want to live. They move to a job. They move their whole family there, and then they have a job, and then they're my age and they're pretty much done and they're waiting for retirement. And for me, I never really had that viewpoint. And my wife, in the beginning of our marriage, kind of felt like that was the right thing, but there was part of her that always struggled with that idea. Like she wanted to do other things, she wanted to think bigger, but she was always suppressed. And she was an artist. She was a trapped artist, And I validated her and made sure that she wanted, what she wanted to do was okay, and that if she wants to create art, let's do it. And she's got a wonderful studio right now. She's got a wonderful website right now. She sells her art, and she's been extremely happy, just a happier person because she's an artist that's been uncovered, so to speak. But those are failures also, and those come later in earlier in life, I should say. But the ones that come later in life are the ones that sometimes really take knock the wind out of us, and recovering from them is really a couple of things you have to do. Number one, you have to identify what it was that created that failure. You know, don't blame anything. Don't blame anyone, because at the end of the day, it's always going to be you. Trust me. Whenever you point your finger, remember there's three other ones pointing right at you, right? It's always your fault. So, always remember also that the failure was probably not even a failure. It was probably that you have to shift your viewpoint. You have to shift your attention. You have to change your idea, or change your mind, right? And it might not even be a failure. So that's what you have to also look at. And for number one, just look at it, see where it came from. Number two, identify to see if it was really a failure or if it was just uh, a mistake. You went the wrong direction. You shouldn't have trusted somebody. You probably should have gone this way instead of that way. You got to figure out which way to actually look, right? So that's number two. Number three, write down for yourself ways that you can actually overcome, ways that you can still go at this thing, but in a different way. So you could say, let's just say you're a filmmaker, and or let's say you're making a film. You're in the middle of a film, and the film does not come out. You don't get the right performances. You don't get the right um maybe it rained that day and you had to do some outdoor shoots, and now the cast doesn't want to come back. I'm talking about smaller budgets, obviously. But let's say you run into that type of a failure where you think it's a failure, right? So you have to sit down and say, okay, how's my story? Is my story good? Do I have a good story? Okay. Number two, can I recast? you know can I just recast this and just start over? Why not? It's my film, right? I can do whatever I want. Number three, what components are in the film, that need to be tweaked? Do I need a better camera? Do I need to tweak my story a little bit where it's not outdoors if it was raining? Do I need another person around me that can actually help me? Sometimes you try to take on a lot on your own. So there's ways that you can sit down and look at that, what you call a failure, that might just be an adjustment. It might not be a failure. So that's those are the first steps that you have to take. First, identify what exactly happened, because it might just be a shift in viewpoint that you have to do, instead of just saying, "Oh, this is a failure. I got to move on to something else." No, I've had these things happen, especially as a filmmaker. I've had films that I've shot and they didn't come out the way I planned them, and I try to tweak them as much as I could, and I really couldn't submit them to festivals, so I just threw them up on YouTube and cleaned them up as best as I could. And some of them got good responses despite being not great films because of technical issues, right? Now I thought to myself, well, what should I do with this film? Well, you know what? I have the script. I might shoot it again. I still have it. I still have the rights to it, right? I'll shoot it again. I have different. The performances were fine. I had no issues with performances, but there's I've been really lucky with actors. I've met some great actors, and I've never had a problem with performance. But it was something that was a technical thing on my part. So what did I do? I went back and I was like, okay, this isn't a failure. This is a learning lesson. And I figured out, okay, one thing I need to figure out is sound. I need to really learn and appreciate sound. So instead of me trying to do sound on my own, I'm always hiring a sound person that I don't have to worry about it. They're professionals. That's what they do. And that kind of resolved that issue, right? And the rest of it was really just that. It was really just sound. So I kind of resolved that. And then I finished films and I couldn't find an editor. That was a pain in the butt to try to find somebody to edit a film, and I could not find somebody. So finally, I decided, you know what, in 2020 during the pandemic, I said, you know what, I'm just going to stay home and I'm going to work on editing. And I did. I did a course on it. I did because that was actually a kind of a failure. I had three films in the can, so as they said, and I had them three films on my hard drive that I still have not edited, completed. Actors waiting to get footage, and it was just a really bad thing. So instead of going through all that, I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it myself. And I'm not a big editor guy. I don't even like it that much per se. I started finding a little bit more appreciation for it as I started researching and studying it. But I'm not really, it's not something that I really want to do. Eventually, I like to team up with an editor and, and he'll just edit the films and we'll just work together as a team, like a lot of director, editor teams. So hopefully I'll find that at some point in my life. But right now I just decided I'm just going to edit myself, and I took a course. I took a couple of courses. I did some webinars. I found a piece of software that's easier to use than some of the ones I had been using, which were a little bit more complex and more involved. um, and I did it, and now I have a film that I just wrapped up on, and I'm ready to release it. I got a couple more tweaks to work on with colors, with coloring and stuff, which I'm also studying as well. And and I'm moving forward on a film, and now I'm going to my next one. As a matter of fact, last night I met I didn't know he was an editor. He was in the band that I went to go interview last night at the studio, and that was pretty cool. So he just messaged me. He goes, "Hey, he saw my social media and saw my film work and said, 'Hey, I'm an editor by trade.'" And so I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." So I connected with an editor last night. And it's always putting yourself out there in places, right? And just being out, doing a lot of things. Because I think the more you do, the more you live, right? Instead of being at home, if you've had something go wrong, don't stay home. The next day you should go out, go for a walk. Go get a cup of coffee at your local diner and just sit down and read something, read a book, listen to some videos, watch a movie, listen to some music. Really get yourself out of your own mind, sometimes, because it can really get hairy up there if you really start um diving into your own thoughts, and you really don't want to do that. Thinking and planning are two different things, right? So people say, well, you got to think about it. Thinking sometimes can be dangerous, because it'll put in a lot of things will come in that will prevent you from actually moving forward if you're thinking too much about something rather than just doing, right? You can plan, you can have an idea of which direction you want to go, and adjust as you go, but thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking just really will knock your socks off if you really just let it destroy you too much. Um so um so those are the steps that you should take. First thing, identify what it was. Might not even be that, right? Second, try to figure out which direction you can go in, to not make that happen again. And the third one is make a list of all the things that you can do so you can actually figure out the best way of going about whatever the thing is, right? I mean, these are all very interchangeable ideas. You can do either one of them first, right? But the most important thing that you have to do is not stay into your own head. you know really know that an artist's job is to create, right? Not to be successful, right? Success, that'll come later. That'll be part of your DNA. It's part of everybody's DNA, wanting to be successful, right? That's part of that. But if you're creating your art and you're happy, then you are successful. You can't look at the bright lights. I mean, look at the Grammys, right? I mean, the Grammys last night, right? It was so sad. It was like seeing people talking vulgar things and just being disgusting on stage, and they're at the Grammys, and it was just like, what happened to music? I mean, what happened to like the integrity? It was just like it was a show of just not all of the artists obviously, but the highlights were just really sad to watch, because that there's is just an empty nothing there. It really is not. It could be great if it just had a little bit more integrity behind it, and it just it wasn't. But it's their art, it's their create, and that's what they're doing, and that's what they're putting out there. But apparently nobody tuned in, and I didn't even know it was on until after I got home from being in the studio with great musicians, and listening to some great music. So I didn't even know. But success is something that is measured by how happy you are. Are you happy doing what you're doing? You're successful. I tell people all the time, I'm successful because I grew up in the South Bronx. I saw a lot of violence growing up as a kid, a lot of drug use. You grow up in the ghetto, you have a different appreciation for life. I have a beautiful wife. I have two beautiful children. I have a nice cat. I have a fish, and I have all the equipment that I need. My music. I have a beautiful guitars. I have music equipment. I have cameras for my films. I have all my streaming stuff for my live streams that I do. I'm happy. I'm creating all the time. Every single day, I'm creating something. I help my wife with her show. She's got a show on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I help her with her show on her art, and we're just surrounded by creativity every single day. So I'm happy. I'm a happy person. Am I where I want to be? No, I'm still thriving to do more. I still want to achieve more. I want to help more people. I want to achieve more success financially, and to be able to help more people, right? Because money doesn't buy you happiness, but it can sure help you make others happy. So why not strive for that, right? All right, folks. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate all of you. I will be back again tomorrow. If anybody is interested in one of these booklets that I always talk about called The Way to Happiness, I still have a few of these left. You can always email me at johnhenrysoto@protonmail.com. And I'll put my email right here. And just write in the title, The Way to Happiness booklet, and I will get one of these out to you ASAP. 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 And thank you for listening. I appreciate y'all. So have a wonderful day out there. Remember, do the things that you love. Make today great. Help each other. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. God bless you all. Peace. And as always, I'm stumbling my words as I'm wrapping up. And as always, peace.